Jaarlijks worden er in Amerika 250 mensen door hun eigen kind omgebracht. En in 45 van die gevallen is het kind nog minderjarig op het moment van de moord.
I just feel like they need help.
Texas is de afgelopen maanden meerdere keren decor geweest van lugubere moordzaken waarin een kind zijn of haar ouders heeft vermoord.
You know, he's going to have to deal with the fact that he killed his parents too.
Wat drijft kinderen zo ver dat ze op een gegeven moment beslissen dat uitgerekend de mensen die hen het leven schonken moeten sterven?
It was not a decision of anger that caused this. I bottled up too much and...
In de gevangenis van Texas praat ik met 2 daders die ieder als kind een van hun ouders vermoorden en probeer ik erachter te komen wat er in iemand zijn hoofd omgaat op het moment van die ene fatale beslissing.
And I was hitting her with my fists.
He messed up.
You know, you're lying. You want to save yourself.
Oh my God, I just killed my dad.
It's done. There's nothing I can do now but get out of here.
People in the community, and many of them are in disbelief.
In deze staakcaravan schoot Cody nog geen 4 weken geleden zijn ouders dood. De reden is vooralsnog onduidelijk en ook de buren begrijpen eigenlijk nog niet zo goed wat er is gebeurd.
So he had some rages going on, or?
Well, he just, you know, on his phone, like he was talking to somebody, mad at his stepmother, I guess, or something. But I never really paid too much attention. He's a teenager, so.
That's what teenagers do, huh?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Some teenagers do.
And when did you hear about the whole incident?
Actually, the police came down here and they talked to me that night.
Oh.
Asking me if I had heard any loud noises or anything.
And did you?
I didn't hear anything.
You didn't
No.
hear the gunshots?
Well, it was 2:30 in the morning when 2 or 3.
They didn't wake you up? Because it's really close, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know that it was inside.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess it was muffled. Plus I was asleep. So he was trying to hype it up like it was a robbery, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And then just kind of idly said that his parents were dead back there in the back.
And what do you think should happen to Cody?
I think, you know, for a kid that's 16, that there's probably always some chance that he can come around and get back into society. You know, he's going to have to deal with the fact that he killed his parents too.
Yeah.
De 17-jarige Cody zit op dit moment in de gevangenis en mag met niemand contact hebben. Er wordt onderzocht wat de reden zou kunnen zijn dat hij zijn ouders in hun slaap doodschoot. Vrienden snappen in ieder geval niet waarom de anders zo rustige Cody ineens zo is ontploft.
He was very funny. He cracked a lot of jokes. He was a very funny person. And he was quiet. He was pretty quiet. You could tell just by talking to him. Him and his brother both had some hard stuff to deal with from growing up. They went through a lot.
They have been hurt by someone.
Yeah.
Where were you and how did you get to know about it?
The very next day I saw a post on Facebook about a double homicide in the area that he lived in. And my immediate thought was his name. I thought Cody Flores. And I clicked on it and went to the page. I just couldn't believe it. I felt heartbroken. I felt sad for him. He had sent a lot of messages to a lot of different people that I know who are also friends with him. And I've talked to a lot of those people since then. They all said that they couldn't get to the message in time. They didn't see it until it had already happened.
What kind of messages were they?
Just saying hey, trying to talk to somebody. He had also sent me a message.
He was reaching out?
Yeah, saying, all he said was hey, but I didn't see it until the day after it happened. So nobody could really do much about it. I felt sad that I couldn't just have seen it a day or 2 earlier.
Because what do you think he needed at that point?
I think he needed somebody to talk to, somebody to be there with him. I've thought about it probably a million times since it happened, that I wish I could have just went to go see how he was doing and spend a few days with him.
Is that frustrating to have to follow everything through the news while it's your friend who's in there? That, to me, it sounds really frustrating.
It is frustrating because I'd like to just be able to sit there and ask him what was going on.
And what could be a reason, do you think?
The only thing I could possibly think of is just something pushed him to a breaking point and he did something that he regretted.
And what would you tell him if you were able to visit him now? What would you want him to know?
That many of us, including myself, still love and care about him. And that we don't look at him any differently than before he did what he did. He's still our friend.
In een zwaar bewaakte gevangenis in Texas zit de 22-jarige Austin een gevangenisstraf van 40 jaar uit. Op zijn 15e schoot hij zijn eigen vader dood, die hem, zo beweert Austin, jarenlang terroriseerde. Good morning, how are you?
Good.
Hi, I'm Jessica.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you. Thank you for coming out here.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you so much. You nervous?
A little bit. My mom and dad, they had a very tumultuous type of relationship, if there is a word to describe it. And very early on, I just began to deal with intense animosity between the two. And around the time I was 6 years old, that's when things really got a little bit more shaky. And my mom and my dad, they ended up divorcing in 1999, shortly before I was 7. And what brought that about was my dad was very abusive to my mom, and then he began to be abusive towards me. And
he was abusive in what way? Verbally or physically?
both.
Both.
But
And how was that divorce from your parents? How was that for you?
as I said, I love them both. And it split me up. It was really kind of tearing me up on the inside when they did divorce. But at the same time, it felt like a relief because I know like maybe things from this point on will get better. And this is what I'm thinking as a 7-year-old. But despite my belief, it didn't come to fruition. It just got worse. And I lived with my mom for like about 6 to 7 years, and then she developed a really bad drug habit, and then the family court deemed that it was unsafe for me to live with her, so they put me back in the house with my dad. And then after that period, just got progressively worse with dealing with his antics.
How did things get worse?
A darker chapter of my life. There was verbal and physical abuse. It would go from the kicking, the punching, like slapping, to more things that were like death threats and attempts at cutting me.
Death threats? What would he say?
When I was visiting my dad, when they were going through the divorcing period, when I was living with my mom, my dad would say things like, well, he'd always belittle my mom and degrade me in the process. But he'd say things like, you're a bitch of a mom, I can't wait till she dies, I can go pull the plug on her grave, I can go pull the plug on her, and then I'm gonna go take a shit on her grave and make you watch. And this is really, it screwed me up, like it messed me up. And I'm like 6, 7, 8 years old hearing things like this. And that was one example of the many things he would say.
Do you recall how you felt as a 6 or 7-year-old when your own father says things like that about your mom?
Dirty. I mean, dirty and ashamed in a sense that I felt that it wasn't right. And then, I mean, in his own way, I believe he tried. And part of him loved me, but a bigger part of him hated me. And the reason why I felt that way is because of my mom. And like he would see me enter, he'd say like, why can't you quit being like your fucking whore of a mom? You can do it right. You're an Eversoul. You're not like that bitch. I feel weird cussing in here, but I'm trying to be as real and as open as possible. And the darkest point of my life, period, the day that led me here, it was like a domino effect. It was progressive, and my mom and I, we contacted, well, she did, and they asked me questions and I answered them. But she had contacted Child Protective Services, local sheriff's department, local police department, the neighboring sheriff's department. We'd explain to them like what my dad was doing, and they'd file the reports, and they said we'd look into it. We'd show them bruises, and nothing was done. Pictures may have been taken, but nothing was done.
So how did it feel for you as a child that the local authorities were aware of what was going on in your house and you didn't get any help? How did it affect you?
I felt helpless and also hopeless. I didn't know the means by which we could end this nightmare. He woke up, he literally pulled me out of bed and threw me to the floor, and he was screaming at me like, where's this four-wheeler, where's this four-wheeler? And then, to give a real brief synopsis of the day, he's screaming at me, yelling at me to get these things done. And then my friend, who's extremely nervous about this, he hasn't heard from me all day, and then I kept seeing his actions against me, and he kept saying, if we don't find that fucking four-wheeler, and if I find out you're involved, I'm gonna fucking kill you, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you, I'm gonna slit your throat. Like, he was saying different things throughout the day, and the more and more he was saying them, the more and more I was taking him serious, because he had usually not said it that many times in a given time frame. Maybe it was like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde effect. Maybe he didn't want to believe it. Maybe he was trying to convince himself that he wasn't that way, that he didn't push my mom through a shower cracking her ribs, or he didn't almost get me killed whenever she was putting up wallpaper when she was pregnant with me. And he had pushed me down. This is right before it happened. He pushed me down on the ground, and the very last words my dad told me, and what made my brain just realize, like, okay, it's this do or die, and it has to end. My dad told me that I'm gonna beat you the way I beat Pamela, just like that. I'm gonna beat you like I beat Pamela.
Pamela's your mom?
Yeah, Pamela's my mom. And something in my brain, just some instinctive part of me just knew that I had to do something. And I go to my room, and I get the gun, and I go into the hallway, which is in line with the laundry room, and I shoot my dad. And it was like a feeling of 1,000 pounds being lifted off my shoulders. But in the same sense, immediately after it happened, I just realized, oh my God, I just killed my dad.
Did he die right away on the floor?
Right.
Yeah. So where did you hit him?
In the side, and then in 2 shots in the side, and then in the head. I walked closer to the head because I didn't want him to just lay there. I wanted it to end. I'd never seen the look on his face before, like he finally realized he messed up, and the final look I saw in his eyes before he finally died was one of sorrow, and that he was saying he's sorry, and that I felt sorry after I did it. I guess you can only take so much, and it's like a dog or an animal. If you push the animal into a corner, like, you can throw rocks at it, you can kick at it, but eventually, despite your size and despite the animal size, it's eventually going to bite back.
Dear Rose, it's been a long time since I've heard from you. I regret letting all the thoughts and memories and just everything get the best of me. It was not a decision of anger that caused this. It's hard waking up and not seeing them anymore. It's all my fault. Why don't you hate me, Rosa? Every day is like living a nightmare. Rosa, I'm so sorry. It's killing me inside knowing they're really gone. They say God loves me and forgives me, and I can't forgive myself. Please come and see me and write back. And please pray for me. And thank you for writing. Sincerely, Cody Flores.
Rosa verloor een paar weken geleden haar moeder in een van de meest recente zaken van oudermoord in Texas. Het was haar broertje Cody die zijn vader en stiefmoeder doodschoot in hun slaap.
I'm his oldest sister. Mom got with Cody's dad. They met. I don't remember exactly how they met. And he became part of the family.
And how did you respond to your stepfather? How was that for you?
It was a little hard at first, because he's not that much older than I am. But we got along. We had to learn to share Mom.
Was that hard?
Yes, because I was Mama's baby. And when I came home, Mama was mine. I take Mama shopping, get her whatever she needed, you know. I'd jump in the bed even between both of them and spend time with Mama, you know. So I had to learn to share Mom.
And at 21, you actually get a new step family. And how was it for you to mingle with your new siblings as well?
I accepted the boys from the first day.
As brothers?
Brothers. There's no such thing as stepbrothers. They're brothers.
And did you spend a lot of time with Cody?
With all of them. And whenever I came home, my favorite thing was to go to the store and buy king crab legs and shrimp. If I could buy live shrimp, I'd buy it and chase them around the house with it. You know, stuff that Mom couldn't afford to buy, anything exotic, I guess you can say, I would go buy it.
And how was her relationship at that time? Were they happy together?
Yes. Like I said, it was kind of gross.
Was it?
They were like high school kids.
So in love?
Yes. Googly eyes, and they'd run and wait on each other, and, you know, it was just like being back in high school.
And how would you describe your brother Cody?
Very active, curious, always wanting to know how something worked or how to do something. He was always thinking. I mean, there was never a dull moment with him. He was always happy. But sometimes he would, when he get frustrated, aggravated, it was hard for him to express himself. He'd just stay quiet.
And how did you got to learn about what happened that night?
My cousin called me. She let me know. She didn't want me to find out through the news, so she called me to let me know what had happened. She said she didn't want to be the one to have to tell me, but she said I deserved to know.
And how do you take in information like that? How do you deal with the whole processing of?
Well, I went numb and I thought it was a bad dream. But I still had 2 hours at work left to do, so I had to keep myself together.
And how did you deal with it?
I prayed and asked God to help me get through it. And when I got home, I kind of threw a temper tantrum with God for a few hours. I was angry at the situation.
Angry at Cody?
No, not at Cody.
Did you know by then that he was a suspect?
I already knew he was the one that pulled the trigger.
Immediately?
Mm-hmm.
And did it make any sense to you that he did this?
No. No. Because there's no telling what he was feeling and what he was going through during that time.
Do you think you'll ever find out?
I hope so. But at the same time, I hope not.
Why is that?
Because sometimes it's easier to not know a reason than it is to know.
And do you understand the feeling that some people might have about him? That
Yes, ma'am.
they don't agree with forgiving, that they feel more comfortable hating him? Do you understand that? What would you tell people like that? What would you want them to know about your brother?
But we all make mistakes. We're only human. I have to forgive my brother, too. You know, people really need to pick up their Bible and actually study what's being said.
And what's the most important thing in the Bible that keeps you going?
That God can forgive anybody if you ask. And that He loves us. There's a plan for all of us. It's just sometimes we have to hit a bigger brick wall than others.
I felt most of my life I've been terrified of everyone around me because naturally a person thinks that their parents are safe and that you can trust them. But when your parents are both abusive and they treat you in such a way that you don't even know who you are anymore, you learn not to trust anybody.
How were they abusive to you?
When I was very little, very small, they didn't physically abuse me so much with beatings and such. It was more molestation back then from my mother. My dad would always berate me. He would tell me how stupid I was because I wasn't able to do mathematics like he was. He was the math guy.
You weren't?
And I was not. I was more into art. And as I got older, it was worse. As I got older, my mother was no longer able to compel me to do things with her sexually, so she would continue to slap me around as usual, except I would get harder hits this time because now I'm older and I assume they thought I could take it more. And my father would throw chairs at me and slam my head into the drawer. And so when I called the authorities, the police officer who came was in the military with my father.
So they were buddies?
They were buddies. I heard almost the entire conversation. They were like, okay, well, you know, they were going back to old times. Hey, you remember back in such and such a village and whatcha. And so they were like, okay, well, there's no problems here. I'll go ahead and write in a report that it was just a minor domestic disturbance, that you were disciplining your child. No problems here. I can pretty much describe my childhood as being lost, terrified, and alone.
Your mom well, I'm trying to put words to it, did things to you that no mom should ever do to her children or to anyone. Are you able to speak about that?
I can speak about this.
Yeah, but what were the things that she would do to you that weren't right?
When I was from the ages of about 10 and younger, she would make me lick her vagina and put my fingers in her and watch her do things to herself. And she had this dog collar she put on my neck, like a leash. Mm-hmm. And she made me like walk around like a dog in circles on the floor.
It sounds... I noticed that you're smiling while you speak about it, but it breaks my heart.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to... It's very painful.
Yeah.
But I'm trying not to break down in front of somebody else, you know.
No, I totally understand, and I understand the coping mechanism, but it's a lot to even comprehend, so let alone experience it.
It's always been my way to, like you said, as a coping mechanism to make myself laugh or to go to a better place in my head, so to speak, so that I'm not thinking about the pain, the emotions that come with it. So I'm not a robot, of course, but over the years I've been able to develop a separation between my emotions and my thoughts so that it wouldn't hurt that bad.
Like dissociate from the situation?
Right.
Yeah. That's really sad if children develop that kind of behavior. It says a lot about the trauma that's going on if you have experiences like that.
It made me think that I'm growing older and I want this to stop. And I don't want to accept this anymore.
And when did it stop for you?
It didn't until I did my crime that put me in here. My next door neighbor, Jimmy, he's my crime partner. He was there at my house, well, apartment. And we were just hanging out like usual. And my mother came into the room yelling at me, and I don't recall what it was because she was a Filipino. So sometimes I didn't even understand what she was saying. And she had a cordless phone in her hand. It was a white, big blocky white cordless phone. And she moved right past Jimmy and started ramming this phone into my temple. And I was disoriented, and all I could do was put my hands up and just try to push this phone away.
Why was she hitting you?
I don't know. I guess she was mad about something. She came to my room yelling, so I must have done something, I imagine. Or she imagined I did something. And so she left. And Jimmy was like, you know, he turned to me, he's like, you know, Dave, she does that a lot. You should do something about it.
He witnessed it.
Right. And I said, like what? What am I going to do? And he said, you could kill her. That would put a stop to it forever.
And when he said that, because it's a harsh thing to say, what did it make you think?
Because my perceptions of reality were already skewed, it didn't seem like too bad of an idea.
And how old was he?
He was a couple months younger than me. So he was 13, I was 14.
And so what did you do?
So we came up with a plan. We said, okay, so later on tonight, when my dad is at work, we're gonna kill her. And we're gonna take the money and go off somewhere. And then if my father came back, I would do him too.
So you were planning on killing them both? And what happened?
What ended up happening was I picked up a pipe from the alleyway next to the apartment, and I thought that it would be quick and relatively painless and easy to just bam, that's it.
Smash her head?
It's over with. And so she was sleeping. So when I came in a room with the pipe and I was about to do it, I tried to build a rage and all the thoughts of what was going on. But something stayed my hand, and revulsion over myself and what I was actually going to do came over me, and I said to myself, I can't do it. Jimmy said, you know, you're a pussy. Stop being a pussy, get in there and do it.
Like your father always told you.
Like my father always told me, so subconsciously that might have, you know, spurred me. And so I went in there, and she jumped up out of bed, and she said, where's the phone? I'm gonna go call the police, I'm gonna call your father. So I tripped her, and I was hitting her with my fists, and for the first time, you know, in my life, she told me, I love you, stop doing this, why are you doing this? And I would tell her, you know, you're lying. You want to save yourself. And so I hit her a few more times, and I got the pipe, and I was kind of queasy at the prospect of scattering brain matter. And so I kind of didn't put too much power into it, and I hit her, and she went unconscious. And she was still breathing though. So I was tired. So I put my belt around her neck and I said, okay, Jimmy, I can't do this anymore. So I walked out of the room and I came back about 5 minutes later and he had choked her already to death.
So you have been beating her unconscious and he finished it off. He strangled her with the belt?
Yes. I told myself, well, it's done. There's nothing I can do now but get out of here. And so we took the body and we were taking it downstairs and a neighbor saw me. He said, hey, what are you doing? So he was to the right of me, so I turned to the right and I panicked and I dropped the body and ran. Yeah, so it was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I didn't want to kill him because he didn't do anything to me.
You never thought of using extra violence to get away with it?
No, because the whole point of the situation was to stop what was happening to me.
To get away from your mom?
To get away from my mother and my father. That was the whole point. Paradoxically, though, at the same time that this experience has been, of course, the worst event in my life, it has also been the best growth in my life. Because through all these hardships and all this suffering that I've had to endure in here, I've had a lot of time to think and grow and mature and learn what's right and what's wrong.
Ondanks zijn straf van 40 jaar komt David net als de andere kinderen met eenzelfde straf na 20 jaar in aanmerking voor vervroegde vrijlating. Het wordt dan ongetwijfeld lastig om weer een plek te vinden in de maatschappij. Iemand die zich daar heel erg om bekommert is Dan Daly. Hij vangt ex-gedetineerden die hun ouders hebben vermoord na hun gevangenisstraf op in zijn huis. Zo zorgde hij eerder voor de beruchte broertjes King, toen die na 7 en 8 jaar vrijkwamen nadat ze hun vader hadden vermoord.
Older brother Derek is now 14. Alex, just a year younger, turned 13 last month. Despite their youth, the boys will be tried as adults for their father's murder.
Please do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. The boys allegedly beat their dad to death and then burned their house down, hoping to destroy any evidence.
Hi. Hello. Can we? You must be Dan.
I must be. I'm the only.
Yes, you are. I'm Jessica.
Oh, Jessica.
Nice meeting you. You have some lovely dogs here. They're very excited. Your dogs.
They're always excited.
Don't they see a lot of people coming here? I don't think
No,
so.
no.
Huh?
I get 2 people a week.
Oh, really? And who are those people?
My housekeeper and my home health care nurse.
Ah, those are the only people who come here.
Yeah.
It's really deserted.
Isolated? Yeah.
Isolated, yeah, but it's beautiful. It's the whole way up here. It's just breathtaking.
Well, I moved into it gradually. I mean, I backed into the whole parasite thing. I did not get involved because I had a particularly hard life or bad life or terrible parents or anything like that. In fact, my parents were really good. They let me have my head. And, I mean, I did outrageous things as a kid that they supported.
You did or you didn't?
I did.
You did? Like what?
Oh, I don't know. Just stupid kid things that, but yet they were always supportive of me, no matter how stupid it was. And so, as I started to hear stories about you know, the indignities that these kids endured, it just made me madder and madder. And you know, I found myself saying, if I had those kids, I'd, you know, blankety blank.
You would take care of them.
Yeah.
Proper way.
I mean,
but what made you mad watching the news?
I didn't watch the news. I would, you know, hear their stories about being sexually abused.
From themselves, you mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so much I can do. I mean, I'm basically living on Social Security. And, you know, that's basically living, you know, just a hair above the poverty line. And, you know, I mean, you hear a lot of stuff about justice reform, but it's always nonviolent offenders. I mean, these are, you know, again, using someone else's words, you know, the worst of the worst. But they're not that bad. I mean, if you were getting screwed by your dad, whether male or female, you'd do something about it.
But in the eye of society, I can understand why they think these kids are...
In the eyes of society, I really don't care. In fact, I think that a lot of these kids are probably the best of the best. Now, they're called the worst of the worst by society, but, I mean, these kids are putting a stop to something, a stop to the abuse.
But not all of them are abused.
Most of them are.
But would you also take children in that are, that don't have a story like that they were abused or that they were under the influence of medication? They just did it because, we all know these stories, right? They just did it because they didn't consent with whatever they were supposed to do, like...
You mean something selfish, like, you know, he wouldn't give me, you know...
extra money, or if my dad wouldn't let me go to this specific school.
I would be very reluctant. I tend to fall for
the underdog.
The underdog.
Why is that?
I don't know.
But you must have questioned that yourself many times.
I do, and I think about it quite a bit.
Does the whole good versus bad fascinate you? When are you a good person and when are you considered a bad person?
Not very often, because there's no opportunity for me to be a bad person.
No, I mean, again, in the eyes of society, a child is always a good person, right? Until he commits a murder. Then you're easily shoved over to the other.
Well, I'm a big believer in second chances.
And what do you think you can offer these kids that will decide to come live here at Estrella Vista after they were incarcerated? What do you think you can offer them that other people can't?
Well, look, it may not be much, but they can always call it home. And whether I'm alive or dead, it's theirs. You see that area there?
Yeah.
That defines, you know, the kitchen, and then...
This will be the whole kitchen.
Yeah, right. You know, with a big wood table in the center, and you know, counters all around. Windows out on those hills, and the rest of it will just be plain adobe walls. And anyway, you see, this is a large area, another round area, and this is where the deck will be.
And in the end, it's your vision that a lot of these children, as adults, will live here together to create their own community, so to say.
That's correct.
But isn't that a risk of taking them out of society anyway? Because then they will...
Society doesn't want them.
So that's not a goal for you, to really integrate them back into society?
I mean, if they want to, that's fine. But society is a very unforgiving place. And, I mean, the hardest thing for someone to, you know, when they get out of prison is housing and a job.
Yeah, because no one would take them in.
Right, and here they could do that. But I mean, the fact is that this is as safe a place as I've ever lived.
Austin en David zien hun families niet meer. Voor hun verklaringen over het misbruik en de mishandelingen zijn aanwijzingen zoals aangifte te vinden. Maar er zijn ook familieleden die stellig ontkennen dat er thuis iets aan de hand was. Het lijkt er in ieder geval op dat kinderen die hun ouders vermoorden zich vaak genegeerd voelen door de autoriteiten zoals de kinderbescherming en politie. David en Austin wekken de indruk dat ze het misschien wel gewoon prima zullen redden na hun vrijlating. Hoewel het natuurlijk altijd de vraag zal blijven welke blijvende schade ze hebben opgelopen en vooral hoe de maatschappij zal reageren op hun terugkeer.